Meanwhile, and something I love to talk about, Baby Reindeer updates. Did you watch Baby Reindeer?
Oh yeah.
What'd you think?
I thought it was insane. I thought I cannot believe that woman has not killed anybody yet, and she probably is going to if she is not stopped.
I don't think she has that killer instinct in her though. Like, that's the thing that's almost a little bit maddening about her is that she just does these sort of like lazy, just this lazy, bothersome behavior that's absolutely harassment. But like, I just don't see her going there. But I can see her causing such a stink that she would cause that person to die, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, and that's like I that's kind of what I mean, or at least I'm including that in my statement. But I also just feel like I could see her really at some point, like standing in an alley with just like a knife in her hand. And if the conversation just goes a little bit too emotional for her, just like walking into the person. Like, I don't think she's gonna like, like set up a Dexter scene or something, but I could just see her getting a little too emotional.
Yeah, yeah, or yeah, I mean, if she was slightly more interesting, I could see her mobilizing someone else to do it, but she's just so clearly batshit that it would really take some special kind of person to get involved. But per her threats, she has officially filed a $170 million lawsuit against Netflix. Here's just a little piece from Variety. The woman who claims to be the inspiration for Richard Gadd's hit Netflix Baby Reindeer has sued the streamer seeking monetary damages of at least 170 million. Fiona Harvey has publicly said that the character Martha in Baby Reindeer, played by Jessica Gunning, pictured above. Sorry, I don't know why I read that. You can't see her here. Is based on her. She's suing Netflix, alleging defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, negligence, and violations of her right of publicity. The suit filed Thursday in U.S. District Court for the Central District of California. A copy of Harvey's complaint is at this link. Again, I don't know why I'm reading that. It's not helpful to you. Harvey's lawsuit alleges that Netflix told brutal lies about her in the Baby Reindeer series. The lies that the defendants told about Harvey to over 50 million people worldwide include that Harvey is a twice convicted stalker who was sentenced to 5 years in prison and that Harvey sexually assaulted Gad. Her complaint says the defendants told these lies never stopped because it was a better story than the truth, and better stories made money. The lawsuit continues as a result of the defendants' lies, malfeasance, and utterly reckless misconduct. Harvey's life has been ruined. Simply, Netflix and Gad destroyed her reputation, her character, and her life. Netflix reps did not immediately respond to requests for comment. So they quote at the end, "This is a true story, Baby Reindeer, episode 1." So the $170 million is definitely just an attempt to get them to settle, right?
Oh, I would imagine so. Yeah. I think that's what I think probably that's what all of this is. And people are saying like, why would she like claim that character? Why would she want people to know it's about her? It's like, well, if you could get like a fucking cool $10 million and just be acknowledged for the crazy bitch that you already are, like I can understand why she would do that.
Apparently, she's been looking at, well, we find out because she went, the original woman that she stalked in, who was the MP's wife, Laura Ray. She went to speak to Piers Morgan and she said she was kind of disturbed because she found out that Fiona's been looking at houses in the area that Laura lives in, which would be probably Scotland, I guess, right? So the idea that she's house shopping in an area where like a fairly well-to-do lawyer lives is goes to show that like she's already sort of spent this money before she got it. And like, cause like, I mean, Fiona's lived on some sort of disability her entire life. She's never really had a job that she's maintained. So for her to be even looking at houses is a bit like delulu and implies that she's already prepared to receive this large check from Netflix. But Netflix has made a statement in response to it saying that in a statement, a Netflix rep said, "We intend to defend this matter vigorously and to stand by Richard Gadd's right to tell the story." Asked for comment on Harvey's allegations, a rep for Gadd cited the statement issued by Netflix. Gadd is not named as a defendant in Harvey's lawsuit. The first episode of Baby Reindeer says at the beginning, "This is a true story." So, yeah, I mean, this is um this is her fault. I mean, again, if she was a normal person who had sent those tweets, but maybe deniably like wasn't her, she would have just changed her name on Facebook to something innocuous and like made her profile private and just denied, like ignored it all. But she was the one who said, "I'm going to go speak to Piers Morgan."
Yeah, and I think it shows that there has been no growth, real growth with her. You know what I mean? It's not like she hasn't been rehabilitated, and I don't think anybody actually thought that she had been, but there's no if that were me and I had since gotten on medication or something, I would be like either I would ignore it or I would, own up to it and be like, "Yep, and now I'm going to disappear forever." Like the idea that this is just kind of she's using this as a continuation of the same kind of harassment and whatever however this feeds her the serotonin in her brain.
Yeah, I don't know that you can medicate what she has.
Yeah, I don't know other than just like a sedative.
Right. Because she seems to have endless energy for this. So Laura Ray, the woman who was the first person that Fiona stalked, the former boss who had just sort of taken. Now, did you watch that interview?
I only got to like the first 10 minutes of it.
Girl, it is crazy because Laura describes that basically she just started getting letters from this woman named Fiona Harvey saying, like, congratulations. I think she congratulated her on her baby being born. And Laura felt embarrassed when she started to get these letters because, like, there was another one that came that said, like, "I have to be honest with you, I'm really hurt that you didn't consider me for being a, what do you call it? Not like a temp, but a trainee. I'm really like, upset that you didn't consider me for a trainee." And Laura says that she felt embarrassed because she thought maybe Fiona was someone that she had known or met. And she said, like, come in for an interview and like offered her, this interview to come in. And she said that Fiona, like, to the point that it was inappropriate, but that she felt really bad for her, was talking about her personal life and how she had nothing, she has no one, she has no connections, she's very poor, all these things. She, you know, basically made her feel sorry for her and she got hired. And then very early on, there was some sort of like yelling around the office of, similar to the snap that Martha had in episode 1 or 2 when they go out for coffee. And she's like, "Don't ever tell me what to do," or whatever. She was like yelling at him like that. That she said that Fiona would walk around the office like yelling at people like that about very simple things. And she had a hotline that for people who could call inquiring about maybe an injury or something if they were interested in a lawyer. She had this hotline, and she would overhear Fiona saying like, "Oh, you don't want to come here for your legal troubles, but you should go to this person," and like giving information about competitors and like how to go find them and get in touch with them, and was really driving away business intentionally. And there was some sort of thing where she paid $250 to have her car worked on, and then she went to the office to get, I think, an advance on her upcoming paycheck, and they only gave her $230 because that's what she had earned. And she flipped the fuck out on them and then went into Laura's office and told them that she wasn't getting the money she deserved, she needed it, or she wouldn't be able to get her car taken care of. And Laura gave her $250 of her own personal money and said, like, go take care of the car, go pay for that. And then when Fiona came back, Laura said, listen, I think that based off of the financial situation you've described and how this car needs a lot of work, like maybe you should just sell the car. And Fiona flipped the fuck out on her and was like screaming at her. And so it got to be a really tense situation. And she kind of had to be physically removed from the building by Laura and another employee. And then starting the next day, she would call and leave voicemails on the hotline until it was filled up. And she would call every night, like call after call, increasingly violent language. She had to start giving her employees panic buttons because they were like full blown adults having like nervous breakdowns at work because they felt really unsafe there. And she also sort of implied that Netflix did her dirty by not protecting her better because it brought up this whole thing again for her. And now Fiona has put Laura back into her crosshairs. And I saw some people reposting Facebook things that she was posting she posts under the name Neil now. And she's pretending to be a Fiona supporter named Neil. And she's like, well, that's why Laura Ray's husband, like, wrote her out of the will. She didn't get a penny when he died, and it's like, "What are you talking about?" Like, "What are you talking about?" So, yeah, it's just it's very crazy, and I do feel bad for that, and I will say if Netflix deserved to protect anyone anymore, I would say it was another victim like Laura.
Yeah, definitely. It at least, like, give her a heads up or something. I don't know. I don't know if they thought well, it was interesting, the one of the parts that I did see was Pierce asked her, like he holds up, like, newspaper articles and stuff and asks her if this was a big deal in Scotland when it all happened, and I guess it was. And so I don't know if Netflix thought they had covered it up better and therefore they didn't owe her, like a heads up or I don't know, anything from it, but it seems like they probably should have.
Well, because I think, like, when they said, like, the barrister's deaf daughter or whatever, like, in not changing the curtains thing, which I know there has to be another sort of, like, hang your curtains type double entendre, you know? There has to be another one, and they could have done that, but that was the thing that got Fiona caught, and that's what had people looking it up, but the real, like, deaf daughter was that Laura and her husband had a young son who was born with, like, a chromosomal disability of some sort, like, he's very, like, I believe she referred to him as being very disabled, and he was only 3 at the time, and Fiona called CPS and basically said that they've been beating their disabled son, and Laura had come across another person who, before CPS even came to her door, who had dealt with Fiona calling in a similar thing, saying that he beat his children and his 2 children were basically like the whole family was very disturbed by this, and I don't know if the 2 children were taken out of custody or whatever, but he gave Laura sort of a heads up about it and saying like, "I'm really embarrassed I have to do this, but I just wanted to let you know, like, this is where it's escalated." So when Laura got CPS, whatever their version of CPS is, at her door, before they could even say anything, she said, "Let me tell you what I think is going on here." And she explained to them that this is not, there's this woman who is a disgruntled former employee who has done this to someone else. And like the police ultimately believed her because they were able to confirm that, yes, it was this person that she used to work for or that used to work for her. And again, this was like, it was 2 weeks. Imagine that. 2 bad weeks at the office leads to all of this.
No, it's so crazy, and yeah, like you said at the beginning, I don't even know what you how you help this kind of person, or like what you do for them, because I don't think going to jail is going to do anything. And it's not like it's a serious enough situation where she's going to be in jail for life. You know, she'll be in jail for a year, maybe 6 months or something, if that. And then it just is all going to happen again. Cause I don't think punishment does not like recognize, like she doesn't recognize that. You know what I mean? It's not teaching her anything. And so I just,
No,
as a
it's
society, I don't know what you do. It's the same kind of thing like we were just saying with it's not illegal to start a cult or be in a cult. Like so much harassment that is very real and very like disruptive to your life and your privacy and your safety and your just feelings that of comfort, but doesn't necessarily translate to a legal code. And so it's like, how do we do more about this?
yeah, and I think, like, this is where and I don't think this would happen in America either, but I think this is where our sort of, like, harsh penalization of people like this can sometimes be a better fit, is I really think that Fiona shouldn't even be around, like, other mentally vulnerable people. I think that she should be institutionalized and kept apart from the rest of the population.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, I think she is aware enough that, like, if you were to put her with other folks, like, she would just manipulate and take control and ultimately derail their lives even further, and obviously she can't be a part of, like, just everyday society because of the same problem, and so it's like, where do you put her? What do
Yeah,
you
because that's
do?
the thing is, like, putting her in some place where she still interacts with other people is very dangerous, especially if you're we're gonna look at Fiona's problem as a mental health problem, which I'm hesitant to do, frankly, because, like, I think there's obviously something wrong with her mental health, but, like, I cannot bring myself to have sympathy for her. She's just too dangerous of a person.
Yeah.
And, I don't think you can approach her with the kindness or empathy you might approach other people with. Like, I've been seeing people on the Reddit saying stuff like, "I'm having a hard time feeling empathy for Martha or for Fiona." And I'm like, "Good. That's a healthy instinct." Like, you should not feel empathy for someone like this. Like, they wouldn't even know what to do with it. All they would take it as is like permission to keep going. And the last thing this woman needs clearly is any more permission. So, in a way, I feel like even putting her with other mentally vulnerable people, let's say let's say it's your mom and she has some sort of run of the mill mental illness, like, but she can't be out in the population, right? Like, Fiona would just torture these already mentally ill people. Like, that's why I really do think that, like, solitary confinement of some type is like the most appropriate way to go about, like, handling her, not even punishing her, just, like, handling her.
Yeah, I agree, and that's an interesting idea of the difference between, like, punishment, rehabilitation, and then also some people just need to be handled. Like, you just have to figure out what you're gonna do with this person for the next 30 years. And if there
Yeah.
was a way to, like, somehow, like, home confinement with the assurity that she could never touch another cell phone or access the internet again, I don't know how you would even manage that, what resources you would have to use for that, but it does feel like something like that needs to happen. And I also think another obviously really fascinating part of this is the way that people respond to women who are the perpetrators of this kind of stuff as opposed to the victims. And you see that in Baby Reindeer where, like, the police are like, they don't want to take him seriously. They're like, "Oh, there's a woman who's calling your phone." Like, that kind of mentality, and we do need to take these things seriously because it's real and it's happening and it's really really destructive behavior.
What that can do to a person is just it's on a different planet. Like, what the ability of what something like that has to do to a person is just it's so scary, and so, yeah, it's really unfortunate, and I've never Yeah, I can't explain to people enough, just like as even someone who's experienced the most mild dosages of like this sort of situation, it is awful.
Well, and it's like it doesn't even need to be that. That's like the most frustrating thing, and that you hear from the police all the time is like, well, a crime hasn't taken place yet, and it's like, well, there's no proactive, there's nothing preventative that we can do here, and and sometimes like these things can be just as harmful and invasive and scary, even if it's not like a sinister thing. Even if you just have somebody who wants to say hi to you every single day that stands outside your house. It's not like that person's not standing there with a knife, but it's like still this invasion of like of your space. And the idea that you can't there's no avenue to relieve yourself of that without having a something horrible happen first, without having a crime happen first, is like just crazy.
Yeah, it is. It's tough, especially when like the person is doing it under like the pretenses of being nice or doing
Right.
something nice for you, or like they just want to be friends. It's like you should also be able to say, like, I don't want to be friends. Like,
Yeah.
sorry, like, please leave me alone. I don't want to be friends. Like, there was someone that I had a thing with like that where I was just like, I have been telling you for years, and now you're proving me right that I don't want to be friends with you.
Yeah.
Like, it started off as nothing personal except for like, I just didn't understand your vibe and I didn't feel cool around you. And now you're like hurting my feelings. And, like, I'm allowed to say respectfully, I have friends, I don't wanna be your friend, and
Right.
that's
Right.
okay. Like, there's a whole town of other people who wanna be your friend. I'm Molly McAleer is allowed to say, "I don't think we're friends." That's fine, but when someone's trying to, when it's, like, all like, "Well," and then you get people who be like, "Well, why don't you wanna be her friend?" And it's like, "I just don't want to."
Yeah, because I
Like, I'm
don't.
at fucking capacity, dude. Like, I don't have time to take on this other person who's kind of fucking weird. Sorry. Like, and there's been nothing that hasn't proven that this person is weird and like has bad boundaries. And I just don't want to be around it. Like, yeah, I don't know. Sorry. Like, I actually thought the nicest thing I could do was the thing I wanted to do, which was to say, sorry, I don't think we can be friends. I thought that was the
Right.
nicest way to handle it. But anyway,
Right. Yeah, and then when you don't have somebody that understands that and then still is like, "Oh, I saw your car parked outside, so I came to knock on the door." It's like, "Well, no." And, like, I don't again, you're not standing there with a gun to my head, but, like, this is still an invasion and a disrespect of the boundaries that I have established, and so something needs to happen here. But, in the eyes of, like, authority, nothing can happen until something tragic happens, and that's just fucking crazy.
no, and with a lot of these people too, it's like, people want to be like, well, maybe they're just not bright. And it's like, no, it would be easier if they were stupid.
Oh, yeah.
That would be like so much better if they were stupid. Cause then I could like understand it a little bit more. But like I
Yeah.
think this person's like with it. And that's the part that disturbs me so much is like they're with it, but they don't follow social norms. That's very confusing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're with it almost too much. Their intelligence makes it even scarier, especially I think in Martha's case or Fiona.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like, I think that in some ways, the best way to handle someone like Fiona is to put her away in a cell and give her what she thinks is a computer that's attached to the internet and
Yeah.
just be like, go ahead, babe, post it up. And like,
Get
maybe some of the nurses for fun can respond once in a while. So she thinks she has a thing going on. But
just make
like,
make an AI bot for her, you know?
oh, that is so right. Fiona needs like AI that's gonna
Yeah.
respond to her. Absolutely. And say like, just no pushback. Like she doesn't want pushback. Like this is a much healthier way for, yep, AI. AI should take that job.